All right. Welcome back, my friends, to the Travi Wavi. I'm your host, Travis Eason, coming to you live again in the 325, beautiful, historic downtown Abilene, Texas, the storybook capital of America. And we shoot this show live every Thursday morning around 10 a.m. You're welcome to come on down, grab some coffee at the Majestic Coffee Shop next door. Walk on over here to the Neon Parrot Live Studios and catch some great content. We film this show every Thursday around 10, and then the Breakdown with Ben comes on after that for some sports talk and historical weapons. We love having a live audience, and we have some wonderful people in the house today. Glad you guys are here. Please like and subscribe, share these videos. We do this as a labor of love. And really excited to bring yet another fabulous character, wonderful person, a friend, becoming a wonderful friend. Katie Freeman, welcome. Welcome.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm great. Travis, how are you today?
I heard you might have been a little nervous about doing this.
Well, I'm historically a behind-the-scenes kind of person. This is maybe the first time I've sat down with a microphone in front of my face in my entire life.
What?
And I'll be 39 this year, so it's a long time coming, I guess. Thank you for putting me into a situation that is a little bit outside of my comfort zone.
My
but
pleasure.
It's an honor to be here.
Well, I'm excited that you're here. So you've been in the house watching for the last few weeks, kind of a support staff cheerleader,
Yes.
stage manager, and you
Sponge.
know that one of the first questions I like to ask all my guests, even though I know the answer in your case, tell me, do you have any siblings, Katie Freeman?
I do not. I am an only child, which, might explain a lot. But I've, been fortunate to have friends and cousins that I've grown up with that have, been with me my whole life, and they're very special to me.
And you have some cousins in town out on a family farm that you get to go and hang out with. Tell me a story about that.
Yeah, so I think about a month and a half ago, I'd been spending some time out there. My great aunt and uncle have a farm northwest of Abilene. And it's a space that I was able to, go out to growing up. And it was sort of that farm and then our great-grandmother's house were sort of a mecca for our family back then. We would get together for, hay rides in the fall. My uncle would put all the hay in a trailer and pull all of the kids around in the farm, fields. And I'd get to go out and see the chickens and get the eggs. And it was just such a visceral experience for me since I, grew up here in Abilene, but the house I grew up in was on Sales Boulevard where my parents still live. And I equally enjoyed performing. That was probably my first stage for cars passing by, so I've never performed for an audience that was still. I've always been, kind of in a whirlwind of events in my career, but the farm was always a place that brought a lot of peace, I think, to our family. So I was able to spend some time out there recently and shoot some guns and
rest and relax.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
reconnect to nature.
Right.
So
yeah, it's that tribal.
Yeah. So I know your parents. They were both colleagues of mine, and that's how I got to know you. Of course, you were much younger back then, back in the day when you were babysitting for my children.
Right.
Yep.
You moved to Abilene in 2001, so I would have been 15.
And I worked with your dad at Abilene High School and your mom at ACU, and watched you grow up, and then you've had your own journey and career for the last 15, 20 years, which we're going to get into and cover. But I think that's important just because in my experience in Abilene, especially in the theater community, getting to know these various people as colleagues and friends, and then also their children, and watching the children grow up and be amazing people and start their own families and all that. So anyway, it's kind of fun for me just to be an observer and a fly on the wall over here, and I'm really grateful that you've been participating with us and helping us. Katie's going to start taking over some of the reins for the Cotton Warehouse shows that we're going to start doing again this spring, so mark your calendars for May 9th. The next one will be at the Cotton Warehouse. So Katie, I want to get into who you are a little bit, and then maybe we can just talk about some other subjects that aren't quite as personal. But for starters, with you, knowing that you grew up in a very artistic, theatrical home with very amazing parents, and being the only child, so having all that extra attention and um, I don't want to say coronation, but your parents were very meticulous, maybe with raising you. I think they're very thoughtful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you have a story about maybe how we could showcase that a little bit?
Well, I mean, you know, my parents are, very artistic. My um, dad, as a musician, as a director, had this kind of calm presence in my life.
Mm.
He played piano at Southside Baptist Church every single Sunday when I was growing up, and I would go, with him consistently on Wednesdays and different Sundays to experience his music. I
Mm.
mean, his artistry and his love of music there. I just always saw this quiet presence at home
Mm.
with both my parents, but then that was their place to recharge and
Mm.
to go out and continue their artistry in the community. And I've just seen, connections over generations, like what,
Mm.
knowing that I met you working with them,
Mm.
and then had my own time at ACU, had, my own career in San Antonio, and then, COVID sort of,
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways brought me back to Abilene. Those connections, those generations, they really, I think my parents learned a lot from their parents,
Mm.
and that gave them a sense of responsibility and routine, but then they always balanced their artistry with that as well.
Mm.
And so I think, they were older when they had me. And so when you say like meticulous, like I remember asking them when I was a kid, do y'all ever do anything spontaneous?
Mm.
Can we just go crazy and do something out of routine? Because we went to church every Sunday.
Mm.
School was very important. Family time was very important. We traveled, but it was always for, something business related,
Mm.
whether it was going to Dallas to look at costume warehouses, going to see family. There was
Mm-hmm.
always a purpose, and I think that the purpose has really driven their
Mm.
lives. And so, they read to me every single night. Their care of my heart and
Mm-hmm.
soul and experience,
Enrichment.
enrichment,
Mm-hmm.
from a very, I mean, from, but before I was even born, was, has been the fabric of my entire life.
Mm.
And so it was amazing to grow up in Abilene, to
Mm.
be enmeshed in an artistic community full of love
Mm-hmm.
from day one. I mean, my entire career, I think, has been formed by Donna Hester and
Mm.
ACU Dinner Theater.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you went to ACU, graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in graphic design,
Yes.
and then promptly decided not to use that, like
Ever.
many of us do with our
Right.
college degrees.
I'm
But you,
slightly. I did some design work for my dad and friends
mm,
and family, but yeah, for the most part, professionally, I never pursued that
but you did get, you have been deeply entrenched in hospitality,
for a long time. Right.
events, coordinating, catering. There's more. I'm just
Yeah.
hitting the tip of
I
the iceberg.
mean, kind of, I think it really did start with helping out with dinner theater
Mm-hmm.
at ACU and the Sewell Theater. It was
Mm.
such a magical space for those of us who got to experience
Mm-hmm.
the artistry in that building
Mm-hmm.
over the decades that, it was in its glory.
Mm.
And then, my first job was at Cajun Cones, making snow cones. And then I think the simultaneous first jobs were Cajun Cones and then working here in this building here on Pine Street back when it was Jordan Taylor and Company.
Which is a
And
great little historical thread that
yeah,
we're sitting right
right
now in the
here
Neon Parrot Live Studios.
where I worked when I was 16 when
When,
I met
uh-huh.
you guys and was babysitting TJ on the weekends.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Pretty wild.
I know.
So
I
back
love
when
it.
this was Jordan Taylor, and Jordan Taylor, is that even around anymore?
So the Rector family,
Mm-hmm.
this was their first location, and then
Mm-hmm.
they moved in Abilene on Walnut Street,
Mm-hmm.
and I think now they're in the Dallas area. I
Okay.
can't, without
Yeah.
doing some research, I'm not specifically sure which part of DFW
But they're
they're in.
still in
They are
operation.
still in operation. It's a
That's so
beautiful
cool.
boutique.
And so after some Jordan Taylor and Cajun cones, keep listing your work history, worker.
Well, so those were, jobs in addition to babysitting that carried me
Mm-hmm.
through high school. And then as soon as I got to ACU my freshman year, I remember moving into the dorm. It was in Gardner before it was, torn down. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
Wessel. And the first day that I moved in, my friend across the hall had just gotten a job at Abuelo's
Mm.
as a hostess. And that sounded like so much fun. I just wanted to be there
Mm.
in the energy of the restaurant. And so I started hostessing my first week
Mm-hmm.
of college. And as soon as I turned 18, I started waiting tables. And, kind of the rest is history from
Mm.
there. I loved the energy of being in food service.
Mm.
I loved, you know, the service aspect
Mm.
of taking care of people when they came into the restaurant. It was a blast to, have, I mean, that was, 2004 to 2010 when I
Mm.
was at Abuelo's.
Mm.
I worked there for a couple of years after college,
Mm.
after, an internship as well. And I kept coming back to the restaurant, and
Mm.
the feeling I got of being part of a team
Mm.
that worked hard and served a lot of people.
I think the industry, I'm going to call it the industry, but the restaurant bar industry, it's one of those, in a way, it's kind of got this relation to theater that I put in my mind
Oh
anyway,
yeah,
because there's this idea of like, it takes front of house, it takes back of house, it takes all these people coming together to put together good service
absolutely.
for the patron, for the customer.
Right.
And um, and there's also this sense of like, hey, we're in the weeds together. Like, it's not like
Yeah.
you're by yourself. You've got the team, whether it's your hosting staff or waiting staff or bartending staff or kitchen staff or whatever the situation is, however that situation's set up, you're in it together to try to get through those crunch times or those busy nights or busy seasons.
And that's the best part.
It is.
When you are like, if you're on your own, you would completely drown.
Yep.
And, learning the phrase in the weeds and during
Mm-hmm.
those years, it was fun to be learning the terminology, to learn like 86 this and sub that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a culture that I was completely drawn to
Mm.
and have, found a lot of joy in.
Mm.
And I think I'm just one of those crazy people that can't stay away from it.
Well, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. We need those people too, Katie.
Yeah.
So, what year was it that you decided to move to San Antonio from Abilene?
So I was at ACU from '04 to 2008 is when I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
And then after graduation, I had an internship in Oklahoma City
Okay.
for that summer. My cousins lived there, and my cousin's wife, Megan, worked at a graphic design firm, Visual Inventor. And it was an incredible opportunity, an incredible experience. And I'd been a restaurant person for 4 years. I didn't really know, I don't think that looking back, I didn't know how to hone my graphic design skills or artistry into a firm like that. I think that, my passion back then was definitely in hospitality and restaurant and food service. And so after a short summer, I was back in Abilene, had different plans to move on to different places. I ended up meeting a lovely gentleman during that time, and he and I moved to San Antonio. And we moved it was January 1st of 2010.
Okay.
And I moved without a plan. I thought, well, I'm going to use this graphic design degree and do something in the big city. And, about a month later, I was living in the Southtown area of San Antonio, and it was a very special time for the city. There was a lot of growth happening, and I met so many really amazing people and started working for a catering company. And so my very first job was bartending at the McNay Art Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was just surrounded by beauty and amazing um, people who were there to support weddings and
Mm.
galas and baby showers and different, levels of events. And the company was run by a husband and wife team, so it was a small team. They'd built the company from the ground up from their
Mm.
home, and just kind of based all of their business on word of mouth. And
Mm.
they found a niche market in San Antonio. Um, so that first event in February of 2010 was at the McNay, and then the next, I think maybe a month and a half later, I was captaining events for them.
Mm.
They said, "Do you know who Coach Popovich is?" And I said, "No." I mean, he's the head coach of the Spurs.
Mm.
And they said, "Do you know who Manu Ginobili is?" And I said, "No." "Do you know where the Dominion is?" "No."
Mm.
"Do you know what Fiesta is?" "No." I had no clue what I was doing. And so it was Ginobili's baby shower at Coach Pop's house in the Dominion.
Mm.
And I was in charge of this event. And I was 23, and I had no clue what I was doing. I was just thrown into the fire. And it was the best time of my life.
Yeah, you say you have no clue, but when you're raised in a family of artists and theatrics, and you've got the background in hospitality, you know exactly what to do.
Well, and coming from, the family that I do on
Mm-hmm.
both my mom and my dad's side, the kindness and the hospitality just exudes from everyone.
Yeah.
You can't walk into any of, my family's homes without being offered something to eat or drink immediately. And so I think I do come by some of that sort of, you know, I'd want to say Southern hospitality, but I have a lot of family up in New York too, and it's just the people and the DNA. They're
Yeah.
pretty special.
That's
So,
good. So I
yeah.
want to real quick um, on your resume here. So you're in San Antonio. You're catapulted into leadership in this industry
Hmm.
and finding a lot of success because at some point you started working for the Omni hotels.
Yeah, so I worked for Paige Bartow Catering Company for about 7 years. And, as I mentioned, they're a mom and pop, and
Mm-hmm.
I loved my time there, but I kind of hit a ceiling. It was um, a place that I felt I needed to move on from and be able to continue my career path.
Mm-hmm.
So through mutual friends, I was hired at Omni Hotels and Resorts on the Riverwalk. And with no hotel experience, just a catering background,
Mm-hmm.
I started as a catering sales manager in 2017, that October.
Mm-hmm.
And then, fast forward into the next year, I was, 2018 was a wild ride. I ended up winning the Catering Sales Manager of the Year award for the entire company,
For North America.
North America, Canada, and South America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had an incredible team.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean,
You won
so I
for being the
won the
best.
first year, and then the second year I was a runner-up. But working for Omni was, I mean, I don't even know if I can find the right words
Mm.
for what they did for myself,
Mm.
personally, for my career. The company is Dallas-based. They pride themselves on being, a small kind of boutique-owned organization
Mm.
with, only about like 65 properties, give or take, in North America, Canada, and South America. And they really care for their employees. The general manager that I worked under in San Antonio, Rusty Wallace, he always talked about experiences are
Mm.
what drive our business. We could have the best burger, but so could the person down the Riverwalk.
Mm.
What else is going to be the thing that somebody remembers and
Mm.
brings them back to the Omni? And it was more than the burgers. It was more than the people, or more than the buildings that were so beautiful. It was the people,
Mm.
the management style, the leadership, HR's involvement. You felt nothing but seen and valued and
Mm.
supported. And, because of that, I was able to find more success than I had in my career up
Mm.
to that point.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which, I mean, I've found different successes in different ways, but, you know, I guess an award made it feel official.
Well, awards are a big deal, especially when you're talking about 65 different hotels across the continent, and you're getting the award, you're getting the laurels for that. I think that's really impressive.
Well, and the clients were, the clientele coming in. The two hotels that I worked for were Omni La Mansión del Rio and then the Mocara Hotel and Spa.
Mm.
They sit right across from each other on the Riverwalk, connected by the Selena Bridge.
Mm.
And the Mocara, I believe, still is the only Forbes four-star hotel in the city.
Mm.
So the clientele coming in were, you know, pretty big names.
Yeah.
And there was a lot at stake. And so they knew how much it took to keep those hotels running. And I mean, like you said, earlier, it takes the team. It
Mm-hmm.
takes the front of house, the back of house. There's not a part of hotel world that can be weak,
Yeah.
or there will not be success.
Mm.
And so with Omni, the name of the hotel speaks for itself, but they really promote that full circle. They call it the trilogy of the balance between the owner, the guest, and the associate. They're really, everybody needs to be happy or the train doesn't go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to pull up something else in your resume real quick, and then we're gonna bring you from San Antonio back to Abilene. But I just thought this was really great, and you've got a really fantastic resume. But this line on your professional skill set, memberships, passions, and hobbies, this first line to me is just it's the best. Katie Freeman,
Oh gosh.
organized, calm, professional, personable, and then of course I pressed my phone and got it all weird. Organized, calm, professional, personable, passionate, thoughtful, consistent, driven, positive, resourceful, and caffeinated. I love it.
Well,
That's just great. I think that sums you up in a nutshell.
definitely caffeinated. I'd be doing some more work on this cappuccino if I wasn't afraid to knock it into the
but calm
microphone.
and passionate and professional and organized. I think all these things absolutely encapsulate who you are, your personality, what you bring to the table. You're a gem. You're a real gem.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's taken me, I'll be 39 in August, so I'm rounding up at this point. I'm not going to be a person that denies my age.
Mm-hmm.
So, in all these years, I've not always been comfortable speaking about myself or honoring the hard work I've put in or being able to acknowledge my own successes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm equally wanting to talk about my failures and learning as I go and grow through life. I know that I am where I am because of what I've been through, and it's just been a journey and a step at a time. But I do feel, when I put that resume together last year, I've always been really proud of the fact that in all of my career in crazy hospitality, I've been told I'm calm so much of the time. And so that's been a compliment that I've really owned and tried to carry with me. I think growing up in being born in the 80s, growing up in the 90s, having a foot in like the world of Oregon Trail and my old Nokia brick cell phone, and then, being a person who was really resistant to, like, I never had a MySpace. I had a friend my freshman year of college who insisted that I have a Facebook. My friend Christy made it for me. I mean, she was like, "What do you want your password to be?" Okay, I don't care, and so I've sort of resisted that part of technology and have one foot in the old school world. And so I don't really promote myself and feel more calm and have my parents, I think, sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but routine for staying consistent.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and because your parents are former colleagues of mine, I can speak to their calmness, both of them. Although I've seen them in the weeds, and we've been in the weeds together in various times,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they both exude that sense of confidence and calmness, and very very rarely is there a lot of energetic explosion from either one. Although I could say Clay, I've definitely sat in some notes with high school students, and they deserved maybe a little bit of a yelling here or there. But anyway, you come by it. You know, like for me, my observation of you, Katie Freeman, is that you were born into this incredibly talented theater home, taken a lot of those gifts and reshape them into the hospitality arena. I mean, they're very similar anyway, but reshaping them in a way that really works for you, and clearly you have the accolades to prove that you are top of the class.
Well, thank you. It
You're
sounds really
welcome.
nice when you say it like that.
I'll try to say it a nicer way next time. Um, so you said you kind of came back to Abilene due to COVID. COVID was a big shakeup for a lot of people.
Right. Like I will never forget. I was working for Omni
Mm-hmm.
still, March 2020, and we've all kind of felt and saw it coming that month.
Mm-hmm.
But March 18th, 2020, we were all furloughed from the hotel on the Riverwalk, and it was just the most surreal day I think I've ever had. Just packing up your stuff and walk to your car and go home. And
Mm.
the Riverwalk, for such a vibrant space, was just quiet.
Mm.
And so at that time, I was furloughed for 6 months. I thought, well, this is awesome.
Mm.
I've worked for my whole life. I mean, I learned how to drive my granddad's truck when I was 7 years old, and they had a irrigation business in Tulia, Texas, and I'd go in the summers and help them. I mean, my parents were so dedicated to their craft, and there was a lot of balance for me growing up, but I never had a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
The theater was my
Mm-hmm.
babysitter. I think Jesse Galvan technically watched me one night, and we made paper dolls,
Yep.
and that tracks because he's,
Mm-hmm.
now master wardrobe supervisor
Mm-hmm.
on Broadway, right? So anyway, I think that did my train just leave the station? We were talking about
That's okay. We'll get it back on track. So you came back to Abilene because COVID.
because COVID, right? So I was, saying I'd always worked. I'd
Mm-hmm.
always been with family, whether it was at the theater or family businesses. I was always by my parents' side or with
Mm-hmm.
family,
Mm-hmm.
and so or in school or at church or at my own work. And so when I was furloughed for the first time in my life, I was like, this is great. I've got all this time on my hands. I had a house project that was sort of happening at that time, and it allowed me to be home to oversee that. And I just was able to spend time with my dogs and sit for the first time and really, you know, reflect. I think that was the first time I really sat and my adulthood maybe and had time on my own. And so 2020, my last grandparent was still living at the
Mm-hmm.
time. My dad's mom, Doris, she lived here in Abilene. My parents were taking care of her during those years. And so, we wanted to keep her safe and, protected. And she was in hospice care because of COVID. She
Mm-hmm.
got COVID that year. And so my priority from San Antonio really shifted. What I thought would be a 6 month furlough from the hotel ended up being a termination after 6 months. The business levels were not back. We were not, none of the jobs were there for us to come back to. And so I started coming back to Abilene to spend time with her,
Mm-hmm.
to support my parents and, their care of her. My whole family, was, in a position to really rally and around and support her and her, late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what am I doing? Like, I need to get back home. And so I moved back here in 2021, and she was my focus. We became primary caregivers for her. She had Alzheimer's and dementia, and that time really changed my perspective in so many different ways. I learned about those diseases. She was so funny. She was so resilient and so strong. She never had a bad day. I mean, no matter what happened, if something was going wrong, she'd say, "Oh well, when it rains, it pours." And she taught me so much about how to care for yourself and others. I was her only granddaughter. My two cousins, Clint and Corey, are older than me, and they're just our grandparents on that side, my dad's side, are very special. And I grew up with them in like summers and Christmas time, and so it was really nice to have the opportunity and an honor to come back and be a part of her experience in the last few years of her life. So Hendrick Hospice, I can't say enough amazing things about that organization. They are incredible. So that time really shifted my career. I was learning all about these diseases and the brain and charts and her medical care and the social work aspect of hospice, and really immersed myself in trying to be the best advocate I could for her. Visiting Angels was a company that was incredible and supported us during her last few years as well. I believe my mom was counting, and we lost track at about over 175
Wow.
different caregivers came in and supported her and our family during those years. It took a tribe and a village. Those angels are actual angels and became family. The hospice team as well. So, having that experience was formidable. When I moved back, she was my main focus, and I didn't want to have a career that took all of my time like I had in San Antonio. So I started teaching water aerobics at Hendrick Health Club in
Love that.
2021 to keep going and stay moving. My mom had both of her knees replaced there, and that pool helped her learn how to walk again. And so that pool's recently closed, and so ACU's absorbed their water program. So just a couple months ago, I started teaching water aerobics back on campus at
Love that.
ACU in the new beautiful leisure pool, which was not there when I was a student. So it's just a gorgeous athletic facility to be able to go teach in, which sounds wild.
And you do 1 or 2 classes a week?
I teach one currently,
Okay.
and then try to be a student as much as possible. And
Show up for the other ones?
yeah, try to
good.
try to keep my schedule open for the other work I need to do.
So I'm not sure how much we want to segue into the Abilene Hotel, if we want to save that for another day or not. But you were pretty involved in the DoubleTree downtown as it was being built. From
Yes.
the dirt up, you were on site. You can talk a little bit about that role?
Yeah, so there's another plug I want to throw in there too, and because it's my favorite restaurant here in the downtown area. When I moved back to Abilene, I was working at Hendrick teaching water aerobics, but I also had the opportunity to work at Sweet Time Kitchen.
Oh, Sweet Time,
And so it's an amazing scratch kitchen. Misty and Mandy are amazing. The food is delicious. And so I was working there, and I saw this hotel being built across the street, and I thought, that is so cool for Abilene. I grew up here, and I left I have that 12-year sort of gap. And then I was back and, not really sure where my future would take me. And I saw the construction. I saw the steel beams being put up over, this was like early 2022. And so one day these folks walked into the hotel, or those folks from the hotel walked into Sweet Time, and we just got to talking. And it was the general manager and the director of sales and marketing at the time. And then, fast forward about a month, I was the third hire. I started from a trailer on the construction site, and that was in October of 2022. And so it was an amazing opportunity to be the first, sales manager to really start believing in the property before the walls were there. And I got to see the team assembled. There were so many wonderful things about that experience. I think that, now in hindsight, there was, with the COVID
Mm.
aspect of everything being built in, those years, 2021 and 2022, and knowing that Abilene had invested, decades of its time and money and energy into this project. It was high stakes. We've definitely knew what was expected, and there was a team assembled that was prepared to deliver. I think that, there was just a lot of, I feel like I saw a lot of mismanagement from before the time the hotel opened
Mm-hmm.
that affected the integrity of the project.
Mm.
So I was there all through opening, through the first year, and then I left in April of last year. So it's coming up on a year that I have not been at the DoubleTree.
Mm-hmm.
And I left to save my health
Yeah.
because it was that serious.
The weeds were that tall.
The weeds were. I had the machete I had in both hands couldn't
Wasn't
handle
doing
those
it.
weeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it happens.
Right.
It happens. And we wish the hotel all the best of luck for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a gorgeous building. I know how much hard work has gone into the that amazing facility being there and being what it needs to be for Abilene.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's been a tumultuous journey, and there's
Growing
been
pains.
some growing pains for sure. So
Mm-hmm.
I've not been there for a year, and so I've had to choose
Mm-hmm.
peace
Yeah.
and legal counsel.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So, another little segue here, but your time at the hotel was, from what you've shared with me, some interesting stories. Just some of the people that you got to meet, both like in the building capacity, who are now working on the Lancium project. I think there's like some overlap there.
Yes, DPR was the construction company that was hired to be the main project management team for the DoubleTree.
Mm-hmm.
And DPR is also highly involved in the Lancium project out at Stargate.
And so we've talked about that a little bit on the channel, but for those that are new or listening, the Lancium project was announced by our current administration a few months ago with a $500 billion investment into something called Stargate. And we have a facility just outside of town. It's been under construction and in some parts operational for about 5 years with continuing construction going on out there. And this is definitely a point of a topic of conversation for us in Abilene. We mentioned it with Donna Albus a few weeks ago on the channel. Just what does it mean to have AI infrastructure and a project that size in our community? And I think you have a couple of interesting insights just from some of the people that you've met and worked with.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have, there's a friend that I met at the DoubleTree who's working on that project, and it just seems to be something that is growing rapidly with a lot of moving parts. There are, the city council is working to pass, plans to continue that expansion. I know that there's a lot of, question about what this will do for our community. I mean, I mentioned earlier at the beginning, my family's farm is northwest of town, which is, when I go out to the farm, I pass by the construction and see this, site that's, being put in, and you can look all around and see no water around, but it's going to take how much to keep all of those machines cool?
A lot of water.
Right. And so I have spent a lot of time over the last 10 years traveling to the national parks and being able to experience the beauty of our country and its natural resources, and have found a lot of, joy in being able to learn about how to protect our planet.
Mm.
And something about this project feels like it's rubbing against that.
Mm.
I'm concerned about AI and the
Mm-hmm.
direction that it's taking Abilene.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's a business decision, is what our city council said. So I don't, it feels,
I think it should be just noted real quickly that the land that this Lancium project is on has been, they asked the city to annex that land,
right, which they did.
which they did,
Yeah.
and we're giving them a 15% abatement for a period of time. And there are some former city council members that believe that in the future this particular facility will be able to generate enough power and process enough clean water to share back with the city. And it sounds like we're whistling in the dark a little bit. I know that there's already, we struggle in Abilene to some degree with affordable housing, just like most of the country does. And I've had some clients and friends reach out to me mentioning um, projects to try to create more housing locally because the sheer numbers of people that will be furloughed to come and work at this new Lansing facility is already raising rent rates in our community significantly. So there's other things that we might need to step back and address, or at least it'd be nice if we had a clear picture of what the outcome is or what the goal is. I know that you don't have these answers, but
But still, I
it's
mean,
interesting.
but it's the ongoing conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that project was sold to Abilene as a Bitcoin
A Bitcoin mining
mining
facility.
facility, and then the most recent thing I heard was that it's going to be storage for all of our medical data.
Yeah.
So that
AI with
mm-hmm,
medical, climate,
right,
um, nutrition. Was there? I think there's a couple of
yeah,
different factors that are all kind of under that health
essentially
umbrella.
something right like the AI, the intelligence to oversee all of our health
Mm-hmm.
from a bird's eye view of what, how is the climate or the
Mm-hmm.
demographics of the country affecting obesity
Right.
or, food production.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that there are a lot of factors involved in this that we don't know about,
Mm-hmm.
but that aspect of it is very different than Bitcoin mining.
Yeah.
So, what is it actually going to be? And
What data is being?
right.
Does HIPAA have a place in this anymore? I heard an article or heard a little comment on the radio on the drive down this morning about um, that there's these various groups that are feeding AI data are asking now for even more data, like data that we've closed off or we've kept away from AI for various reasons, whether it's defense or whatever. But there's been more of a push to say, no, we really want to give AI all of the data. And I'm still on the fence about what all this means. I'm an observer. I'm here for it. We're going to talk about it as
Right.
things happen. But I think it's because this is happening in real time and it's like affecting our zip code right here. This particular facility is like at the forefront of the project.
The
I,
first in the country.
we need to ask questions and just
Right.
have conversations, and that's what we're doing right now about it. But it's 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 terrifying and it's also really exciting because we're we're getting ready to jump off a cliff and we don't know how far down or up we're going to go.
Right. And how fast have we been propelled to where we are now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Facebook, I was just watching the Social Network movie the other
Mm-hmm.
day, actually. Um, Facebook happened when I was a freshman in college, and it was with the intention to connect
Mm-hmm.
college students. I mean, the premise was to rank girls based on their hotness.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, fast forward, and it's a global
Phenomenon.
um, power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I still don't think is being used to benefit individuals. And I know that sounds naive, but I guess in my mind I'm always like technology is going to benefit the individual.
No, I
It's
think
been
that it's
so much
turned
the
us more
opposite.
into cattle than
Absolutely.
any.
Quicker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quicker. What do you think are some things we could do to push back against that as we enter into this time of artistic renaissance,
I mean,
or use it to our advantage?
I don't know. I kind of, for me, I'm old school. I have one of my friends, Lindsay, in San Antonio. She would call me Caveman Katie because, I would not necessarily have to have the most up to date technology, or, you know, if the remote doesn't work, I'm just going to put it down and walk away. I'm not proud of that. Do I need to make it work? If I need to, I can probably figure it out. But I don't know. I think it's a mindset because my mind doesn't tell me that I have to be looking a certain way or acting a certain way based on what. I mean, I don't even have TikTok. Am I going to get canceled?
No.
I mean, I just, I don't know. I'm an only child raised by artists, so my mind doesn't tell me that I need to fit in or do anything according to what culture tells me. I mean, I think if anything, I've kind of been a little anti culture in some ways, just to kind of, well, why are you telling me I need to do it this way? I want to go get a tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is that bad?
Yeah.
Right? So I think questioning is, maybe what I would have as my 2 cents is like, what is, like, I don't have Chat GPT either. And I saw something yesterday that said for every single request, for every one request you put into Chat GPT, you might as well take a bottle of water and like pour it out on the ground, because that's the equivalent of how much water it takes to process that computer.
And that's something, we talk about it, but I don't know that we're really getting our heads around the sheer consumption of electricity and water that these computing resources require to function.
Right.
And that's why, like we said, this project's getting built out here in the middle of nowhere, Abilene, Texas, where the land is cheap, it's flat, and we'll work with the local politicians to find you water somehow. It's almost like we're a great spot for it because there's less resistance. But in the long term, China just came up with a thorium reactor, which ACU is working on building a thorium reactor. Energy costs are we either need to come out with a way that we can create 0 point energy or super cheap energy, and water. We need to find a way to clean water and get fresh water for us, for humans. But then also the demand now is the computer needs it even more than we do.
Right. And then the AI is thinking for me and writing for me and using my like the things that I find to be my creativity, they're taking over. And then what's my quality of life?
Yeah. What are we going to be doing in the future? I don't know. These are great questions that we're not going to solve today or maybe soon, but I think are worth asking. Again, because like we're experiencing this in real, like this is literally happening right now as we sit here and talk.
Right.
And it's going to continue to move forward at a breakneck pace, and we're not going to have all the answers or even the right questions to ask, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening right now that feel very much out of our control. It's terrifying. So I think, yeah, what we can control is the conversation and, the community and, just that bringing love to people's door, the hospitality, what do people need? I think
Yeah.
that's, where I've kind of found my, like, passion. It's seeing who's the person that needs me and like what do they need, and
How can I help?
how can I help?
Yeah.
And there's always somebody that needs it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's scary to think that, I mean, my dad has Alzheimer's, and he was at a medical appointment and they handed him an iPad, and his doctor isn't even in the same state as him right now. And that just shocked me. I thought, are we in a time where need to be our own, we're in charge of our own medical care? I mean, my friends who are teachers, the ways that the stories I hear about, what they experience in the classroom now, it's very different than when I was in school 20 years ago. And it's just, everything shifted so dramatically.
Mm.
And maybe that's the case for all the generations. I mean, people that have,
I don't know. I sometimes wonder, and I don't know how much time we have to really unpack all this, but there's like this idea. I have this idea that, you know, let's say I'm not feeling well, I'm sick, and I go to the doctor. There was a time in my life when, like my pediatrician, let's say Dr. Lang, it just having him walk in the room was almost enough to make me feel better.
right, that
Right? Just
comfort.
that sitting down, hand on the knee, or what, even if there's not just something, that placebo of wellness
Hmm.
that gets transferred in that real time moment, human to human. And I know in my practice, um, I experience that commonly, that it doesn't take a whole lot to really help someone feel better as long as you're being attentive to them and being present with them and being calm and professional, right?
Right.
But like that almost in of itself is enough to start bringing about some wellness. And we've moved, like you said with Clay, it's like how is that wellness to talk to somebody through a screen that you may not have any relationship with or not? I mean, that
Right.
could just be an AI. That could be a generated
Right.
person, as far as our connection is concerned. And
Specific to a person who's, has a cognitive diagnosis.
mm-hmm,
It blew my mind.
yeah,
And it is the disconnection, I think, is what we've really lost.
yeah,
I mean, from, last week with Tommy on, he
mm-hmm,
talked about
mm-hmm,
the death of the country store.
yeah,
And, that's, knowing what my parents have experienced and their parents before them. I mean, my family's been in Abilene for 5 generations
mm-hmm,
now. And so to me, the railroad feels like yesterday
yeah,
in a lot of ways
yeah,
because those are the stories I grew up hearing. And, my great great grandmother was sent here on a train by herself from Alabama,
hmm,
and just good luck,
yeah,
and just the strength that has come from, um, you know, where we have come from to where
mm-hmm,
we are now.
mm-hmm,
The disregard of learning history and then
mm-hmm,
repeating it
mm-hmm.
feels scary to me, and like moving away from the human connection. It doesn't feel like it's benefiting um, us sometimes.
Well, and it seems to, I mean, again, I'm just an observer here of my own history, but ever since, 9/11, moving into the state of terror and security, and it's almost like the wellness that we get to experience today is, are you safe and are you well fed on pharmaceuticals?
Right. What's your diagnosis?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Instead of like, hey, you need a hug? You hungry? You need to talk? You need somebody to listen to you?
Do you want to put your feet in some grass? Do
Yeah.
you need to get in some water?
Yeah.
Because that might make you feel better. Have
Absolutely.
you put your like face in the sunshine
Yeah.
for
Have you
10
smiled at the
minutes?
sun today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you made some art?
Right. Have you taken a moment to just breathe? Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you need to go stand on a rooftop and scream.
Yep. Yep.
But that balance of
Sing or dance, play.
being able to be human
Yep.
and being able to live out loud
Mm-hmm.
without somebody pulling out their phone and
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
recording you, that I don't know, maybe that's, we've shifted away from, I don't know, having artistic expression
Mm.
to being afraid of being seen as different
Yeah.
or put online in a way that isn't going to be like uniform to somebody else.
Yeah. Oh man, this is good subject of conversation, and I wish we could just keep it going, but we probably should start to wrap it up. Katie Freeman, do you have any questions for me, or do you have some final thoughts, some comments you want to share with our worldwide audience?
I'm just happy to have been here with you today,
Mm-hmm.
Travis. I don't think I have any other final thoughts. I'm excited for the next Cotton Warehouse
Mm-hmm.
show,
It's gonna be
May
good.
9th.
May
Everybody
9th.
mark your
Yep.
calendars.
Lining up that.
Yep.
Katie's gonna take the reins and the helm and make some partnerships that us boys struggle with. Thank you for strong female leadership. We need it. We really do. Um, Especially as we turn this patriarchy around. Um, well, Katie, you're going to continue to be around. I know that you're kind of doing a little bit of job hunting right now in between things, but we expect to see you around and continue to participate and get back up here maybe in a couple months and have another go at it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to be around. I'm excited to be at ACU teaching water aerobics. That's keeping my, being in the water really keeps me sane. So if anybody, I think it is specific to ACU current students and alumni, but if any Wildcats out there need to come get in the water, Monday mornings, 7
Monday
a.m.
mornings, 7 a.m.
I've been really happy to support my friend Erica Crane. Erica and William Crane have Crane's Craft Barbecue at the Wagon Wheel out in Thai. Erica was the original director of sales at the Doubletree, so we formed an incredible team working there downtown, and now she and her husband have just celebrated 1 year in business. Their barbecue is incredible. They have Strings and Stories once a
Terry
month
Knight
on Fridays.
is the host for that. Yep.
And then concerts on Saturdays once a month. So you can find them at Crane's Craft Barbecue on
plug.
all the socials. And I've been excited to help them with some catering efforts.
And I need to go out there and eat because it sounds fabulous.
It's so good.
And everybody says it's great, so I have no excuse.
It's like the smokers that they have are insane. William smokes everything, I think, for 12 hours minimum. And William's from Mississippi. Erica's from Mexico. So their influence of the regions make this barbecue very unique. Like the sides are not anything else you'll find in Abilene, like pineapple casserole and cucumber salad, elote, smoked queso, and totopos. Specially brought in by a hand-delivered lovely friend, Laya, from El Paso.
Love it.
There's just, there's a lot of heart, and there's nothing but heart in their business. And so I've really, at this point in my life and career, found that I like to be where the good people are, the good food, the good folks, the good music. So thank you guys for being the good ones.
Of course.
And for letting me hang around you.
Of course. And Sandy and Clay, if you're watching, you made a good one. I'm proud of her too.
I forced them to stay at home today because I would have been way too nervous if they were sitting here in the audience.
But you did so good. You did so good.
I survived.
All right, friend. Well, we're going to have you back on. We've got some more work to do together behind the scenes to keep making things in front of the scenes go well. But I'm really glad that you're on the team, and thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you for your tattoo artistry.
Of course.
I'm also a proud tattoo art collector and have 3
You got some great work from a lot of great people.
Travis Eason pieces that I'll carry forever in honor of Barry Smoot. So.
In honor of Barry Smoot?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, girl. Well, thank you. Thank you, Sam, for another great show. Thank you to our live audience for being here today, Mr. Tuck. We'll catch you guys next week. We've got just some more great people. We're gonna have Gary Varner back next week. We just celebrated 500 views, so scroll down and watch that one if you haven't. Please subscribe. This is a labor of love. We want people to enjoy. Come on down, grab some coffee, catch the next show. I think we've got the breakdown with Ben coming on, and then just another reminder: Sunday nights, singer-songwriter open mic right here at Neon Parrot Live. Always great talent. Come on out and support that too. All right, y'all have a fabulous Thursday, and we'll catch you next week. Till then, signing off the Travi Wavi.